Welcome back to Finding New Films. It's episode 15, and I'm joined here today by my dad again. Hey, Dad.
Hey, Hunter.
How you been?
Good. How about yourself?
Good. We went on a walk today. As we're filming this, it's Easter Sunday.
Happy Easter.
If you celebrate. Happy Passover if you celebrate. I don't know if there's any other holidays, but if I'm forgetting one, I apologize. But yeah, my name's Hunter. I didn't say that off the top. But yeah, we're finding another film today. That's the name of the show. But today was my pick. Last time Dad was on, he picked, and we watched The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, the longest movie title ever
in history. Yep.
Yeah. So today I was picking, and we went with Whiplash. If you have eyes and can read the title, and so Whiplash. My reasoning behind picking that was Zach C. that has been on the podcast when we watched Ad Astra, and who will soon be on to watch Super Mario Bros. But he's a big fan of this movie. He used to watch it when we were in high school, like a lot. There used to be a joke because I used to watch Mad Max Fury Road religiously, and it became a joke that Zach watched Whiplash religiously, and we were all gonna have our own religious movie that we all watched 100 times. But I've always known that this movie was critically acclaimed. I've always known that this movie was well liked by people who like movies. And I like Damien Chazelle, the writer and director. I saw his movie First Man in theaters when that came out.
Was that the one about Neil Armstrong?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was less about Neil Armstrong and really about like the mindset of a person that's about to go to the moon and be the first person on the moon for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
More than it really is trying to like evoke Neil Armstrong as a person.
Yeah, because the character of Neil Armstrong was pretty bland in that movie.
Yeah, it's just like, it's just this guy who's just dialed in, and you're kind of like just getting into his mind of like what it would be like. Like, it would be pretty traumatic, and you'd have to imagine, you know, we're not here to talk about First Man, but, you know, you can understand the trauma that would come with being the first person on the moon, and Damien Chazelle is so good with sound design, and that movie is made by the sound design, as well as this movie.
Didn't you say he made La La Land?
He also made La La Land.
So yeah, I didn't look up anything about the background of this movie after I watched the movie, I usually study up and see who made it, and but I didn't do it on this one because I know you always prepared a summary, number one, but number two, I thought it would be neat to find out. And those are two, well, not really that much, but very different kind of movies. All three of these are.
Yeah.
And just one more thing real quick. There are always movies that you see that you think are really good movies. Like, one movie that I can think of is like this is The Revenant. I thought it was a fantastic, outstanding movie. And I've seen it like 2 or 3 times, but it's so gut-wrenching and full of angst and all these bad feelings that generated from watching that movie. It's not one that you just want to see over and over again. And This movie, Whiplash, even though I thought it was outstanding, I don't think that because of what it does for me, I think from my own personal experiences in life and stuff, it's not something I want to see. I appreciate it, and I thought they did an outstanding job with it. But I don't know. I don't know if it's one of those movies I can watch 1,000 times.
Yeah, I don't know that I could either. It was very stressful. You kind of just empathize with Miles Teller's character, and then he starts being an ass to his girlfriend, and you're like, well, I don't know that I like this guy either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. This movie is not endearing at all. It tells a good story, and we'll get to that. But I don't know that I could watch this movie continually. But yeah, Damien Chazelle also came out with a movie called Babylon earlier this year.
I'm familiar with that.
It got mixed reviews, if I remember correctly. But I've also heard people love it. So I don't know. Seems like that kind of director. You either look at it, like, if you look at it pretty straightforward, you're probably not going to find much substance in it, but if you can look further than the screen, you know. If you can look into things, you probably like Damien Chazelle a little more than the average moviegoer. But nonetheless, it's time to get into the credits and then do the plot.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah. Time for me to talk for like 3 more minutes. Let me get my throat all moistened.
Meaty. That was the dog food that had that commercial.
Oh, God. That sounds gross. Okay. Whiplash came out in 2014. It is a runtime of 106 minutes. It was written and directed by Damien Chazelle. It was edited by Tom Cross. The music in the movie was done by Justin Hurwitz. The camera was done by Sharon Mir. And the stars of the film were Miles Teller, J.K. Simmons, and Melissa Benoist. And the plot is as follows. Andrew Neiman is a first-year student and jazz drummer at the prestigious Schaefer Conservatory in New York City, hoping one day to leave a legacy like that of his childhood idol, jazz drummer Buddy Rich. Terrence Fletcher, the conductor of the Schaefer Conservatory studio band, recruits him to play in the studio ensemble as an alternate for core drummer Carl Tanner. Andrew quickly discovers that Fletcher is relentlessly strict, emotionally manipulative, and abusive to his students. He slaps and berates Andrew when he fails to keep the tempo during the ensemble's rehearsal of Frank Levy's titular piece, Whiplash. Determined to impress Fletcher, Andrew intensifies his drum practice after their first set at a jazz competition. Andrew misplaces Tanner's music sheet. Since Tanner cannot play without his sheets, Andrew replaces him for the next set. After a successful performance of Whiplash, Fletcher promotes Andrew to the core drummer. However, Andrew is taken aback when Fletcher abruptly gives the position to Ryan Connolly, a drummer from a lower-level ensemble within Schaefer. Because of his single-mindedness towards music, Andrew's relationship with his family deteriorates, and he breaks up with his girlfriend Nicole to focus on his ambitions. After a grueling 5-hour practice session with Tanner and Connolly on Caravan, Andrew earns back the core position. On the way to the next competition, Andrew's bus breaks down. He rents a car, arrives late, forgets his sticks at the rental office after convincing an impatient Fletcher to wait for him. Andrew races back and retrieves them, but is hit by a truck on the way back. Andrew crawls from the wreckage and runs to the theater, arriving just as the ensemble enters the stage. Heavily injured, he struggles to play Caravan, and Fletcher halts the performance to dismiss him from the band. Enraged, Andrew attacks Fletcher on stage but is pulled away by security and expelled from Schaefer. At his father's request, Andrew meets a lawyer representing the parents of Sean Casey, a former student of Fletcher's. He learns that Casey hung himself due to depression and anxiety caused by Fletcher's abuse. Casey's parents want Fletcher held accountable, and Andrew agrees to testify anonymously, leading Schaefer to terminate Fletcher. Andrew subsequently abandons drumming. Months later, Andrew encounters Fletcher playing piano at a jazz club. Over a drink, Fletcher admits his teaching methods were harsh, but argues that they were necessary to motivate his students to become successful, citing Charlie Parker's rise to fame as an example. He invites Andrew to perform with his band at the JVC Jazz Festival, assuring him that the songs will be the same ones played in the studio band. Andrew hesitantly accepts. Andrew invites Nicole to the performance, but finds out she is in a new relationship. On stage at JVC before the first piece, Fletcher reveals that he knows Andrew testified against him. As revenge, Fletcher leads the band into a song that Andrew does not know and does not have sheet music to. After a disastrous performance, Andrew walks off stage humiliated but returns and cuts off Fletcher's introduction to the next piece by playing the piano intro to Caravan. By playing the intro to Caravan. Cueing the band himself, initially angered, Fletcher resumes conducting. As the piece finishes, Andrew continues into an extended, unexpected solo. Impressed, Fletcher nods in approval before cueing the finale. And that was Whiplash. Yeah. That doesn't do it justice, but that was basically the skeleton of Whiplash. I guess we kind of did what our expectations going in were, so I guess we can skip over that part.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just kind of can hear it from the first few scenes. Damien Chazelle is so tuned in. All of his movies are to the sound design. And I don't know if that's particularly on him, you know? I mean, I'm sure he's the auteur of the movie. I'm sure he has some type of input into what it's sounding like. But he puts a very heavy emphasis that it needs to sound a certain way. And when it comes out like this, you kind of have to go, well, you know, he knows what he's talking about. So, yeah. I mean, you can...
I have to think that somewhere in his past, either in high school or maybe even in college or whatever, and he may have a theater degree for all I know. I don't, you know, but he was in theater course some way because he's able to recreate that angst of, you know, classes and competitions and things like that. And obviously with La La Land too. I mean, that's just straight up
right. A musical.
Yeah. On film, so yeah.
You can really see his, I mean, everything is a set piece in his movies, and he moves the characters around, and they have like pretty wide open spaces, and they have one camera really, and they track the whole wide open space, so it kind of does feel like you're watching a theater, like a play.
It's either a play feeling to it, yeah. Either that or you're actually there in the room with them.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it's the same thing.
Yeah. Just creating the intimate setting is mainly like the point I was trying to make. It's a very intimate setting, but it's also wide and it's big as well, so they have room to actually work and go different places. And even, like, the touch of it being, like, an actual school and they're filming on location, so they have that little office room that he can walk into. And then you can even extend the scene into there because then it becomes an even more close environment.
Oh, you know what? That's one thing that I remembered. I didn't take notes on it, but there were, like, parts of the movie that kind of reminded me of, like, Birdman. How it would kind of like follow from one room into the next or whatever, like over somebody's shoulders, like you were part of the ensemble or the band or something, you know, and you were just following along and you were right there. I mean, I think it was almost necessary to create that level of angst and, you know, anxiety, you know, fear, sheer terror, you know, in some cases. I thought they really did a good job with that. And I remember from the beginning is like, you know, I was pretty open-minded to the film. I mean, I know it had been nominated and won Oscars and stuff like that, so I knew it was a good movie. But, you know, sometimes the Oscar, like, you know, really kind of artsy movies that, you know, doesn't have the substance that others have, for lack of a better word. So when this movie started with the drum solo with the kid practicing in a room by himself, I was like, it was all about the rhythm and, you know, everything like that. And I was like, man, that's a bold statement. I mean, if you're introducing this movie like that, and it's all going to be like basically the rhythm of a song, you know, or staying in rhythm, this movie is going to have to stay like this. It's going to have to like have the rhythm of a song in it, you know, to work now. But I was like, you MFers, you did it. So you know what I'm saying? So I was so pleasantly surprised with that because I felt like that was a big theme. The movie itself was a a song or at least a piece of music.
Yeah.
It had measures and different segments and stuff.
It was definitely being treated with a lot of care. I mean, it goes back to a lot of the sound design too. Like, just when you're conscious of what the movie sounds like and you're actually putting effort into like the sound of the movie, it makes the movie a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's even if you're just putting a score underneath, a straight movie, or if you're doing it in the way that they're doing it, where they're actually creating like a really interesting soundstage for a really interesting idea for a movie. I love how they built the tension from the first scene of the movie between the two of them. Or I guess the first scene that they're both in together. It was the whole beef is beautifully done. Is beautifully done. And when you realize his plan by the end, I guess not his plan. He's not plotting like he's a supervillain, but his like approach. You kind of can understand where he's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
You understand where both of them are coming from, but you don't really know who you're on the side of. But it's really, really interestingly built, and it's built from the very first scene of the movie, and it just continues to avalanche. But he knows when to pull him in different directions. It was really interesting to watch the whole dynamic unfold.
Yeah. I think from the character standpoint, I think like early on you get like a really good feel for J.K.'s character, or Fletcher.
Yeah.
Because the guy sitting last chair trombone, like they're just practicing this piece, and he goes off the chain about somebody being out of tune, and then he narrows it down gradually to like just waiting, trying to give somebody an opportunity to say it's me. But I don't know why you see it gradually being whittled down, and then it finally gets down to the 4 trombones, and then it goes to one guy and gets all up in his face and just humiliates him, and he says, "Are you out of tune?" And he said, "Yes," and he kicks him out of the band. He's like, "Wow, that was really, really, really harsh." And later on, you learn that the reason that he kicked him out of the band because it was actually the first trombone that was out of tune. But this guy that he kicked out didn't even know that he was out of tune or not. And the fact that he didn't know was the reason he kicked him out. So I can, as someone who was in band, I can appreciate that on his level, but I don't think if anybody's ever been in band and know how that's just something you do, especially if you're at that level of competition level, is you're in tune. If you're playing, I remember playing, I was like, oh, God, I'm out of tune. You know what I mean? And you got to stop and fix it.
Yeah.
So, I get that, but I thought early on it was like, all right, I have some empathy for him because you can't be at that level and not know. You know what I mean? It's like, it seems like he's being so brutal, but I was already starting to get some insight of his character, so to speak.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to say when I was babbling just a second ago. I thought their characters were beautifully built outside of each other, and then their paths crossed, and from there their characters built side by side because they were around each other. And the relationship became the story rather than each of them having an individual story.
Yeah, I feel like we'll get to that later.
Yeah. My next note says, hey, it's Paul Reiser.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. Paul Reiser.
Yeah, he plays...
Cool. He plays the concerned dad.
Of the main character.
Yeah. What an interesting role for him. He's never done anything like that.
Well, in all defense, that's Paul Reiser now. Yeah. He was in Stranger Things, of course. But he was in the 80s a very, very popular and successful stand-up comedian, and he was probably one of my favorites back then. And he had a nice run with a sitcom with Helen Hunt of all people.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, and it was just a newlywed couple living in New York, but it was pretty cool. It was well written because Paul Reiser wrote a lot of it. So he had his run, and then he just, you haven't seen him, in 20 years, and then all of a sudden he's the dad. I think every actor goes through that.
Well, it's kind of like the thing when the other guy, Sean Astin, pulled up on Stranger Things. It's like, last time we saw you, you were in The Lord of the Rings.
I know.
You were like a child, and you're like the stepdad in this show now. It's like a very weird way to be reintroduced to someone. I don't want to mean weird. It's just a jarring way to get introduced to someone again. Of being like, wait a minute, you're 40 now? Mm-hmm. Last time I saw you, you were like 27. I rewatch it all the time.
Well, we were talking this before we started filming too, and I just wanted to bring this up. It's just like how some movies are more intimate than others, and in this movie, granted there's some other guys in the band that are there, and you have moments where they interact when they're practicing or whatever, but there's really only 4 characters with meaningful lines in this movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
4 characters. I mean, and the fact that you pull it off, I mean, it really just seems like a ride. I mean, you watch this movie and you're just like, wow, that was an hour and 45 minutes.
It's like a dual character study, but not so much. It almost feels like it, but there's not enough on Fletcher's part. You don't go in too deep into his life enough to know. He's just the main antagonist. He's the driving force against, Miles Teller realizing himself. But, I mean, I feel like it is just kind of just a character study of someone just finding themselves.
And if we haven't mentioned it, I mean, this is like a movie about some kids that are going to a prestigious music school. And this is just one particular uber prestigious part of it with this jazz ensemble. So the question I have for you is, do you think that someone that doesn't like jazz music, do you think they could like this movie?
If you like movies, yes.
Do you think it exists outside of a fandom of jazz? Because that's something that immediately hit my mind.
I mean, it won an Oscar.
Yeah, well, that's true.
I think that kind of speaks for itself. But, yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think you have to necessarily love jazz music to like this. I mean, it's a good question. Because I don't know. I mean, I don't know that Zach necessarily loves jazz. I've never heard Zach casually playing jazz music, but Zach likes this movie a lot. So, I mean, maybe. I think it might. That's my answer. It might.
Yeah.
But I would not know one way or the other,
I
couldn't. I probably couldn't. I can't even infer one way or the other.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that I don't think anybody, because it is a good movie.
Right.
But I think it has a little bit more of appeal, or possibly could, for someone who's had experience playing an instrument, being in band, during their formative years, or even competitively, and also, being a fan of jazz music. Both could really enhance that movies. And I'm just curious if it's that for me that made me like it more, or whether the movie was, that much. And that's kind of tears me a little bit about thinking about it as a whole and comparing it to other things.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that. Yeah. That's a good point. I think Miles and JK were both really good with the characters. It's really easy when the characters are this well written, but I think they both did incredible jobs. I don't know that I would I don't think Miles Teller deserved like a Best Actor nomination or anything like that.
No.
But
And I had no idea he was that good of a musician. I mean, that's some serious drums he was playing.
he had played. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure he played drums as a kid, and then he went and still took drum lessons to like be really good at playing drums. Because the last thing he wanted to do was like make himself look stupid. Because there's a lot of people that do those music movies, and they're just like fiddling away at the piano or whatever, and they are just kind of mailing it in.
Anytime Bill Murray's ever tried to pretend he's playing the piano, comes to mind.
Oh, he's so charming.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also just want to point out Miles Teller's awkwardness, like his genuine real life awkwardness, plays in this movie's favor a lot.
I don't know. Every time I see him, for some reason, I just always immediately think of Peyton Manning. I don't know why they so much alike.
He does.
They look alike. They act alike.
I can see that one. He is a doppelganger for not necessarily a doppelganger. Like, they don't look exactly alike.
It's more Eli's doppelganger.
It's like if you mix them together.
Yeah, it's like Eli's and Peyton's love child is,
which is disgusting. They are brothers.
Who could even?
Yeah, that would be gross. White people would never. He made Miles show up to the class 3 hours early.
Oh yeah, he was just brutal, man.
Oh my god, that made me hate Fletcher. I was like, oh, this guy's the devil.
Remember, and then he overslept.
Yeah,
and
he was busting his ass to get there, and he gets there and he sees the schedule, and the class starts at 9, or they start playing at 9 or whatever.
But he stayed there.
Yeah. I mean, what's he gonna do? Go home? I mean, it's an hour to get home. He's gonna go home for an hour and then come back an hour and then be late on his first day. Fuck it, I guess I'll just sit and stay.
I mean, everybody. I mean, I don't know if you're going to get into this later, but I think everybody's had that butthole teacher or coach or whatever.
Yeah.
Are you going to get into that?
Yeah, we can get into it when we get out of the break. We got to take a break. So we'll be right back. You stick with it. We'll be back in literally 5 seconds.
I'm looking at myself in the monitor and my chest is flashing like I'm Tony freaking Stark or something. Do you see it? It's like I got it.
Oh yeah, you got a little blinker.
Yeah,
that's fun. Well, I'm glad you're having fun.
I
am. Welcome back. You wanted to talk about when we left off. You wanted to talk about.
I forgot already. What were you talking about?
This is what happens when you put two people with ADHD in a room together.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about. We were talking about how he had gotten to the class really early.
I was just talking about that type of people.
Yeah, the mean teacher.
Yeah, I just for me personally, I'm a really shy person.
Right.
And I'm not a person that really likes to strive to be recognize success, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Right.
Like I don't think anybody would look at me as like a really ambitious person. Even not to say that I don't have ambitions, but
right.
It's different than most people. So, this type of teacher or personality was always really tough for me because, I always had the feeling that I was pretty good or pretty smart about something. Like when I was in band, I don't know if I ever told you this, but we start in the 5th grade, or we did.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to middle school band, and when we get to middle school band, in the 6th grade, you're playing in an ensemble with 6th, 7th, 8th graders. like, I made first chair clarinet in the 6th grade. And so they wanted somebody to play tenor sax because we didn't have one. So that's how I moved over to saxophone, because it's this same music sheet, basically, same key.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So it's just a bigger clarinet, basically. It's all a saxophone is. But I enjoyed it and was so into it until I got to high school, and then our director was just this jerk. You know, and I'm such a people pleaser, and it's like nothing I did, even though I was like, had some natural talent. I'm not saying I was Miles Davis, or, you know, Coltrane rather. I'm not saying that at all, but I was pretty good. I had a pretty good ear for music and stuff. But he just, because he recognized, I see it now, but because he recognized that I was pretty good, but I was also kind of lazy about it, and he was just trying to push me. But he pushed me so hard that he pushed me completely out of music, and I hated him for that. And, you know, over the years I've gone back and looked at it, it was like, that was me, and that was my decision, and I was just being lazy. But I let him get the better of me, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, I've had teachers like that, even, you know, business people, and like, people were wired a different way. That kind of personality pushes people, you know, to be better. I mean, they're mean about it. They're awful about it. And they have, I think, decent at least intentions about it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, about what they're doing, you know, to get the most out of their proteges or, you know, underlings or whatever. But it works for some people. But it just really, for other people, it's you know, what is too far?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a matter of even that there are some people that you can't push that way to achieve greatness. And because you can't, they're not really great. I don't think it's that way at all. It's just people are just wired different ways.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that was a big point of the movie is like, yeah, I mean, you should be tough on people sometimes and get the most out of them, but where's the line? You know what I mean? Because this movie dances all over that line
Right.
all the time.
Yeah, it does.
Well, I don't know. It's so far over the line,
Yeah,
really.
it definitely
He drops
crosses
students
the line.
to tears. I mean, I even, you know, I'm going to admit this
He
because
hits the kids.
this movie was so traumatic to me, like on a personal level, that watching it, I felt myself tearing up. Because it brought back some, you know, I'm tearing up now just talking about it, but it brought back some really painful stuff for me personally. You know what I mean? So, but for me to like still like it, to know that it wasn't just me.
Yeah.
That this is a common thing for people that have gone through. I mean, being in those closet practicing rooms, just trying to get it right, trying to get it perfect. I know what that feels like. And then to be in those rooms, where those stale rooms are full of people and you're being judged. Oh God! I mean, they're nothing even on a sports level as compared to that in my life. And I mean, I was doing that stuff when I was like 12, 13 years old. You know? Oh my God! Whew!
Just screaming.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's really rough. Yeah, I don't know. Whenever I had coaches in sports that acted like that towards me, I always shut down to them too. I just, I don't respond to being screamed at. I really just don't. So yeah, I can see how that would. I can
Do
see
you
how
think
I would
it's like
relate to that.
a kid's thing? Because I don't know. Did you have to be that way to like get through to them? Because I mean, I guess we are kind of, you know, you and I are unique birds to some degree. Is like they don't realize that even at age 12, all you got to do is like just take us and tell us what you want to do better, and we'll you know, and have a conversation. Not everybody reacts that way.
I mean, sometimes it's just a nature thing of like the only way that these people have ever been told or taught is by being yelled at. So the only way they know how to tell or teach is by yelling at people. So it's just a cyclical cycle for their life. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we're talking about a middle school band teacher. I'm sure this guy did not expect himself to be a middle school band teacher. You know what I mean? And
yeah, one can only dream.
well, you know, that's like my point too. Like, you know, I'm sure he wishes he was doing something else. And so, maybe, and I guess that's the thing of like.
No, my middle school band teacher was great.
Oh, okay.
That's where I got to
school
love it. It was when I got to high school.
Well, still, I mean, I'm sure that's
And I don't
not
even
what they
say
want
his
to be
name
doing.
in case somebody that had him too remembers him. His name was David Hall. He was an ass.
Screw you, David Hogg. Yeah, it was. I don't. I mean, I had a teacher that I didn't like a lot in the 7th grade. She had been a private school teacher before she taught us, and she just really thought she knew something about teaching, and she was just a horrible teacher.
Yeah, I don't know sometimes if teachers or people in authority in general, even parents as far as that go,
Yeah.
realize how important or impressionable the formative years are.
Yeah.
I mean, you can really put some deep rooted. I mean, that age is such a fragile age between like 11 and 14. I mean, you're turning from a child to, and we're talking about something totally different, but then again, not, because you go through another phase in the college years from like 17 to 21. There's a huge amount of growing up that someone does in that little short period of time. So, I mean, you remember everything about it when you go through it because you have to suck it up and just roll with a lot of changes and everything. So, I mean, this movie, I guess the point that I'm trying to make, so I'll shut up, is that it really encompasses that. It's just this whole movie. I mean, if you say one word, it's anxiety. This movie is just, you're just on it, just tensed out to, you can't stand it almost, the whole thing, but you're actually enjoying it too because what they're doing sounds fantastic, but is it worth it? Maybe that's the question.
Yeah.
Is it really worth it?
Yeah.
To be perfect?
Yeah. In his mind, it is. In Fletcher's mind, it is. Yeah. I don't know. To lighten the mood a little bit, the next note I have is milk the cunt. Why did they say that? Do you remember when they said that?
What?
They came into the room and they were like, I think they were tuning or something. They were like tuning, or they were done tuning, or they were about to play or something, or the teacher had just walked in, and one of the students just goes, "Milk the cunt!" And then they like started playing the song, or like they all stopped doing what they were doing. That was really weird. I would like to be explained why they said, if you know why, and put in the comments section below why they said.
I think that was like
milk the cunt.
I think that was like what they were meaning by that is make the new guy play.
Oh.
Like get his
maybe.
Yeah.
Probably.
Like give him his first taste of playing with us.
Yeah.
I think that's what they meant, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'll look it up later. That one definitely had me scratching my head a little bit. One cool thing, directorial wise, having none of them be able to look him in the eyes when he's like going off or in general really, is also a great just character setting thing.
And then also, if I'm not stealing your thunder, as what was the boy's character? I'm sorry, I forget.
Andrew,
yeah. As Andrew, his confidence builds. He gradually builds up more courage about standing up to Fletcher too, and I thought that was important.
And going and getting a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Him getting picked for the band is something that leads him to have enough like courage to go ask out the girl from the movie theater
that he's had an eye on for weeks or whatever.
He went with his father, Paul Reiser, to the movies and saw her. So, that quick shot where they blow all that drool out of the saxophone. I did not know that saxophone. I did not know you drooled in the saxophone that hard.
It's all gross. You know what's bad about a saxophone?
What's that?
In a saxophone, there's no valve or anything. I mean, you just have to dump it out. But then we don't get a lot. But like, that's more on trumpets, the valve instruments, and trombones. Oh, it's so nasty. That was a gross part of the band, and I remember we sat right beside the trombones and the what are the baritones, which are the small tuba things. We played the same part as the baritone tenor saxes did. Isn't that weird? That always seems weird to me.
That's pretty interesting. I wish I knew what that meant.
And French horns. Yeah, all of us had the same music. The same parts, basically.
It must sound good together. The next note says, there it is. Because the name of the movie was in the movie. Because it's a song. So that makes sense. That note is kind of the same as the note that I just talked about. The guy that he fat shamed not being out of tune, we talked about that. Yeah, I love how they paint envy in this movie. Envy is a common theme in this movie that is painted and shown in such a good light. I mean, it's very comparable to, like, quarterbacks.
I think it's realistic.
Yeah, and like I was gonna relate it to sports because I'm a dumb sports guy. I didn't do any artistic stuff, so but it's kind of like quarterbacks, just trying to battle for a spot on the roster and stuff like that. Same type of stuff where it's like, I want what's best for the band, and it's like, but what I want is for the band to be best with me playing. Yeah, and it's that is very, very well documented throughout the whole movie, and rightfully so, because it's a big dynamic in the movie.
I think, I mean, it just parallels with not just sports, any competitive environment. I mean, just like with in the band, even, it's like, I hope the band does good, and I hope he doesn't F up. But if he does, and how advantageous for me, I'll get another shot, even at work. I hope Bob does a really good job on those reports, but if not, maybe they'll give me a shot. Right. Everybody wants to be the best.
Right.
Or at least
give it a chance.
Yeah, or give it a chance.
At the very least. But yeah, I enjoyed how envy was painted because it was done very realistically.
Oh God, it just ate Andrew's character up alive, especially when he felt like he.
Yeah, once he felt like he had finally won the spot, he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna bring another guy in. We're always
day.
Yeah.
Oh God.
He was so confident and comfortable, and that's one of the things that drove him. One of the things that drove him to kind of near insanity, where he was like, I gotta break up with her. She's taking up my time, which is that is a weird way of thinking. But yeah, that was my next note. Warming him up to crush him so intensely is pretty insane. Oh, I think that's referring to the first conversation where they had, where he's like, "Hey, man, just go out there, have fun." And then he's like, no, my tempo. Let's just try it again. It's fine. You're good. And then it's just in the progressively, it's just like, are you fucking tone deaf? And he throws a chair at him or something.
Yeah, at the beginning, what's the drummer, he talks about the story, though. When he got a symbol on
I have it in the thingy. Sorry for this, everyone. Charlie Parker.
Yeah, Charlie Parker. He tells the Charlie Parker story. It's like he was good, and his mentor thought he was good, and they brought him in to do a recording studio session, and he messed it up, and so his mentor threw a cymbal at him and almost cut his head off with it, basically. And he's like, and then the point that Fletcher makes is like, if he had never thrown that cymbal at him, would he have been Charlie Parker?
Yeah.
And so, the first real interaction that they have is when he earns the spot the first time in the band, so to speak, and he goes for his first practice. Is like, 2 minutes into it, after telling him, just chill, relax. You know, we know you're new. Just have fun with it. And 2 minutes in, he's throwing a chair at him. I was like, it's just like priceless. I mean, you can't help but laugh. I mean, it's horrible for the kid.
Yeah.
But it's just humorous because you just see it coming.
Yeah, it's super ironic. And the way that J.K. Simmons plays it is like, his voice is manic, but he seems calm. Like he's like, you can hear there's real anger. And then at the same time, there's so much collectedness that it's like, it would be so intimidating to be in that situation where this guy knows exactly what he does not like about you, and he's super angry about it, but he also is super like calm, and he's telling you very succinctly, this is why I do not like you, and you need to fix it, or I'm going to hurt you, basically. And it's like, okay, I will. I'm sorry.
And then when he gets to that point, then he'll make it personal too. He's like, you suck at playing.
Oh my God.
And then you have a little penis too. Or, you know, just something else.
Or he asked him about his parents, and he was like, oh, what does your mom do? And then he's like, Mom ran out. And then he used it against him like 5 minutes later when he's ridiculing him. That's why Mommy left you.
Mm-hmm.
Like right in front of everybody. It's sinister. Absolutely sinister. But yeah, it gets him to a point where Andrew is so depressed he doesn't even want to talk to his dad the next time they see each other. I have a note that says, that gash. Do you know what I'm talking about? Does he get a gash in the movie?
I mean,
on his hand.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, those hand blisters. Oh my God. Yeah, we're not even going to talk about that.
Well, I mean, there's a huge metaphor all throughout the movie. I have to mention this that I loved about, I mean, there's always that metaphor that you bleed on things that you're passionate about. And there's plenty of sweat, scenes of blood from blistered hands or sweat dripping on drum sets and stuff. And all that blends into it.
Yeah, I mean, putting your blood, sweat, and tears into something, and he definitely put tears into it. You've seen him. Oh, you're one of those one fucking tear guys.
I love that line. I forgot about that. Yeah, J.K. is so good, man. And he's already got that big booming voice.
Yeah.
But I mean, even physically, he's intimidating because he's got some freaking
he always
guns
wears
on
black shirts too, so you can't ever really tell. You know. If he's fat, you wouldn't be able to tell. Like if he was just a beer gut instead of like a 6-pack, you wouldn't be surprised either way.
He's like got the build of the old guy. Yeah.
And then 1899 boxer. You know what I mean? Just like come on. The 1900s tough man. Yeah, I definitely understand. He looks like in this movie, he's dressed like a stagehand the whole movie. It's pretty funny. The droning siren in the score is really cool. Like that little, it kind of sounds like a staticky noise, but it rises into like a droning type of noise, if you don't recall it.
Is it like speaker background noise?
Sort of.
I didn't notice that.
Not speaker background noise, not like reverb or anything, but it's like it's more embedded in the movie. Like it's like a thumping, like a boom, boom, boom.
I didn't notice it.
When he's like really focused, and it's like just.
Oh, okay.
It's like really like zooming on his focus. I thought that was really good. I look out for score notes, and I thought that was a really, really cool way of like building his all of his moments where he's really, really focused about something. It's never filled in with like bullcrap of people talking around and being like, "Hey, Andrew, aren't you gonna come do this?" He's like, "No, I gotta study my music."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It could very easily have turned into something like that, and that's just annoying. And they do it in more subtle ways, like him being a pretentious asshole at a family dinner. And that does more to build who he is specifically as a person than just being some kid who's good at music and he's a prodigy. It's like he's kind of pretentious about it. Well, not kind of. He's pretty pretentious about it. He thinks his shit doesn't stink, and that makes the dynamic between those two characters, his and J.K. Simmons' character. I feel like that plays to their dynamic even harder because. And this is made more and more clear by the end, is that Miles, or Andrew, is not necessarily, he doesn't necessarily think that Fletcher is wrong. And you can even tell when they're asking for him to depose and be a witness, he's like, I don't really want to. I don't think it's necessary. I mean, yeah, he was kind of harsh, but... Mm-hmm. And then by the end, his words are, tell me what to say. It's not even really him, you know what I mean? They're just, he has to have the lawyer tell me what to say because he's tired of Paul Reiser, getting on his ass about it. So, like, that's why he really caves in, or at least that's what the movie leads you to believe. And I feel like that part is just... that part of the whole dynamic is really powerful. Is the fact that, like, and by the crescendo and the climax of the movie, they're on the same page. They understand each other. They agree by the end of the movie.
I think they see that they're like a lot more similar than they thought they were.
Oh yeah.
I think really it's a lot about
them understanding that they can be symbiotic and understanding Miles. Or Andrew has bought into what Fletcher has told him, and once they were able to just have an honest conversation about it, that's when Andrew was able to accept what he was doing, but having no knowledge of it, and it just being thrust upon him as if it were a fault of Andrew's, rather than him being like, I see something in you, and I'm just trying to pull it out. That's all, and that's Andrew's whole point. And in their conversation is that's all I really needed was for you to just tell me that's what you're doing. I'm fine being pushed. I don't care about being pushed. You've seen that I'm willing to do the work. You see all these gashes on my hand, and I'm like, but that was his whole point, and Fletcher's whole point was, well, I have to be a hard ass on you, and so him still in that hard-ass mode, trying to fuck him over after he feels like he's been fucked over by Andrew. They both just they both look through the things that held them back in the past. And the climax of this movie, genuinely, it made me cry. Because I was like, it was beautiful. It was two people seeing past their differences, understanding each other for who they are, and just accepting one another and being able to become a symbiotic...
reaching a level of respect for each other. Earning each other's respect.
That each other's, craft is now being elevated because they've understand each other and are now able to respect one another.
Yeah, respect for another flawed human being. I understand that your intentions were good. I understand that your intentions were good. The thing of it is like I saw early on from the movie, we go back to the kid about the fat kid with the trombone. I mean, getting kicked out. He got kicked out because he didn't know. And I think that's the point that he was trying to make with Andrew, is just make him realize, like, you're exceptional. You're good. You're going to have to believe it and own it and stand up for it. And I mean, and he did all those. He got all those lessons that he wanted to learn. As flawed as they may have been, ultimately, he got it. He understood not only what it would take to become the best drummer, what it would take to stay the best drummer, and also to own it and have confidence. I mean, really, he just gave him balls. I mean, really, when it comes out. And at the end, he respected him for it, even if he didn't like him personally. So I thought it was beautiful how it all just comes together like that.
It was a character with little to no pride going in, all the talent in the world, and having someone build his pride up, while at the same time the person who came in with little to no pride is like seeing someone who has way too much pride and stripping him of the pride, of enough pride for him to allow himself to be vulnerable and be able to grow.
It was like tearing him down to build him up.
And he was building him up to tear him down. You know, and that was the duality of that was also playing into the dynamic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he had to put him on the pedestal and have him lose it to understand what it takes to get it back or to maintain it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really well done. I really enjoyed this movie a lot.
Me too.
Let's see. There was a lot of romantic interest scenes in. A lot of romantic interest scenes in film are annoying, but the scene in the diner between Andrew and his date was awesome. I don't exactly remember it perfectly now, but I think I remember it being pretty good. It was more of two people who just had different interests, like just talking about. It seemed like two people, real people on a date, not, you know. If you've seen Casino Royale, just to use a reference from this podcast, it is nothing like Casino Royale where they get done talking and you're like, oh, I hate both of these people and they're the protagonists.
Yeah.
And you do not feel this way. By the end of the movie, I just feel really bad for Melissa Benoist's character. Well, actually, good for her. Yeah, she's fine.
She moves on.
Yeah, she's actually fine. So
but
I don't feel bad.
I always thought too, was she making that story up just to make him feel bad? I don't know. You never know.
Yeah, you don't know.
But one thing I remember that scene. I remember what they were talking about. His girlfriend brought up the fact that they were both first year students at the time when they first met, and she brought up like, I feel like I'm the only one that's homesick.
Oh, that's right.
And then he admits to her that he still goes to the movie with his dad every week. And that was like the breaking point where they kind of bonded, that they were both willing to admit that they were fragile and they don't have everything together.
Yeah. You're right. And they are opened up to each other really nicely, and that allowed for them to continue have a good conversation. And that's why I enjoyed it. Welcome back to part 3. We're gonna finish up our thoughts and maybe mention the themes. I made a oopsie. Okay, we're all good. We're gonna finish up our thoughts. We're gonna talk about the themes briefly, and then we're gonna put her on the list, and we're gonna head out. So, yeah, that's pretty. I don't even want to say that one because it's going to make me sound stupid. I'll just read it. It says, great clips from JK in the whole movie. Mm-hmm. It's a very freezing cold take from me. I said, I've never seen a movie or anything really make playing the instrument feel so intense. Does this really feel like that when you're playing in a band? Or you're playing a song on stage or something?
I mean, I'm just telling you. I mean, I had a band director. I mean, he wasn't that bad.
Right.
I mean, he didn't have any qualms at all about singling you out. I mean, I've been in a situation in the room, practicing in the room, a piece of music, where he gradually whittles it down to who's out of tune. I had that exact same thing happen to me.
And it was you?
Yeah, but it was me. It turned out to be me, but I didn't get a chance to admit, I know it's me.
Yeah.
He was just trying to find it out for himself. And he was like, he would have just asked.
I would have been like, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I would have told him, it's me, just give me a second. You know what I mean? I would have said that. But, you know, so, I don't know. But, I mean, it's, I don't know. I mean, for some people, it won't bother them. But, I mean, other people have more fragile psyches than you know. And different people are motivated by different ways. I think it's tragic to think that works for everybody. My main thing.
I agree. I don't see that as like a end all be all thing. I don't understand how you can think that that's the only way to interact with people. But yeah, the intensity of the drums, like putting their hands having to go in ice buckets, all that stuff. I think there needs to be like a drummer's hand charity, because they have some messed up hand. If you drum, I'm so sorry. I did not know your hands were that messed up. So, appreciate all the drummers out there for all the hard work they put in.
It's like just awesome to play the drum.
Yeah, I bet. They look soaking wet when they're done.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably why a lot of them play with their shirts off.
Yeah, and speaking of the intensity of the drums, the pieces they were playing, I think, were perfectly in place because at some they're just like, at parts where he was at his most confident and he thought he had made it, it was just the music, fit that.
Right.
And when he was frantic, the music, equaled that particular feeling. So they did a good job there too.
I agree. I love that the story about Sean Casey simultaneously allows you to empathize with Fletcher when he tells the story, but then eventually you hate him for what they tell you that what happened to Sean Casey because they allege because of Fletcher. It's not, I thought that part of the movie. I thought it was the only far-fetched part of the movie. It's
was
like you can really go.
That he told them died of a car accident.
No, that was the kid that he said was.
Remember, he comes before class one day and says that one of his former students died of a car accident. Is that the same guy or a different guy?
Yeah, I forgot that he said that he died of a car accident.
So
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I meant to mention that because that kind of tells me that he was ashamed of himself and did take some fault in that happening.
Because he was super depressed when he had come in that day.
Yeah.
And they just used it against them, too. Because that was when he made them do that, 4-hour drum session.
Mm-hmm.
Because then he had made a point that, once you put in hard work, it really does pay off. Because this kid made it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, yeah.
But
then you come out.
Yeah,
you come in at the end and you say at what cost. So, yeah, that was really cool, too. Or not cool. That was a really good storytelling technique.
But you know what? I think about it to some degree. And I mean, I think this movie was really about precision and perfection in a lot of ways. And to strive for it and to obtain it, you really have to substitute and sacrifice so much of your life. And is it worth it?
Yeah. I'm just going to go through my notes and see if there's anything really that I need to hit on. I maybe guess the last, the crescendo of the movie, the climax scene, because we haven't really talked about it. He tears those drums up, man.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the silent montage in the middle of the solo, I think it is, where he's just going. And it slows down and zooms up, and you see the sweat and the blood, sweat, and the tears flying off of the drums. He's literally put his blood, sweat, and tears into the drums. It's not. You don't get much better direct visual metaphor than that. Yeah, and the amount of storytelling they're able to do through strictly playing jazz. Is another thing. Mm-hmm. The music is a story, and that kind of plays into what you were saying about the beginning of the movie. What the movie needs to play like a song, and the whole climax scene really emphasized that.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why I love the ending of the movie so much, because at the end of the movie, basically, when he plays this final kick-ass song to end it, the movie.
Whiplash.
That's the end of the movie. When the song's over, they kind of like nod at each other approvingly, or respectfully, and the movie ends right there. So it's like when the perfected song ends, the movie ends. You don't have any epilogue. It was all about the course of where he started and where he ended. And that one particular song, I mean, really, that movie is literally about that one song.
Yeah, it's him perfecting the song Whiplash.
Yeah.
Through very rigorous methods.
And what he has to go through to get there. Yeah.
I liked him mouthing "fuck you."
Yeah,
that was pretty funny. Their whole conversations while the songs were going on was pretty funny, and the climax scene. This movie all had had a pretty witty sense of humor about it. It was very tongue in cheek. Enjoyed that about it. But yeah, I think that's really it for my thoughts, the most important things.
This is now my favorite J.K. Simmons movie.
Oh,
before it was
Spider-Man. I Love You, Man. Yeah, he is really, really good in that movie. He's the overly accepting father of his gay son. I mean, I guess you can't be overly accepting, but
who happens to be Andy
Samberg. Yeah, he's just super accepting of his son's lifestyle.
He needs more opportunities to have
I agree.
more important
What do you mean
roles.
he's rating those farmers only insurance or
I don't
whatever?
know why. He's such an incredible actor to me.
He's great in those farmers insurance commercials.
Yeah.
He's good. He is. That's unironic too. He's actually good in those commercials.
Well, it's kind of like Aerosmith's new catalog. He didn't really like it, but you're happy they're making money. Yeah. Because they squandered it all.
Right.
They deserve to be rich at least from the early catalog. That's the way I always looked at it.
Right. Yeah. That's how you gotta look at it. However you can look at it, whatever helps you sleep at night, right?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm gonna hit the themes. I only have a handful here, so I'm just gonna read through them. I got willpower. I have jazz music. I have Paul Reiser. I've got Not My Fucking Tempo. But no, really, I have training. Yeah, just I didn't really pay that much attention into it. Envy is a good one that I don't have up here, but that should be on there. Envy is on a good one. Intimidation.
Definitely.
Pursuit of Greatness. The trials and tribulations of pushing someone to greatness. But now I'm just kind of coming up with them on the top of my head, but that would be angst, yeah. Teachers, no. Yeah, I think that's good. That's pretty good. We don't need to spend too much time on that, honestly. We're gonna get into the list. I almost pulled up my email. Not what we want to do right now. So, zoom in. No, hold on. Go into enter full screen. Here we go. Yeah. Zoom in. Okay. Or not. There we go. There we go. Okay. So we got Whiplash by Damien Chazelle. Okay. By Damien Chazelle. I'm just gonna leave it. Okay. It's my movie, so I will give my rating first. I gave this movie a 9.25. I thought it was a very, 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 very good movie. Yeah, I don't need to really explain it. We kind of just spent the hour explaining why I thought this was a good movie. So I give it a 9.25. That's my official rating. What is yours?
Well, I mean, I personally love the movie. I think it's the kind of movie that not everybody's going to like. But I think anybody who loves what you would call film would absolutely adore those movies. It has any appreciation for just very good, well-made movies. I mean, you know, you're not going to go out of the theater dancing and singing or anything like that, but it's a fantastic movie. So I have an 8.5 for me. But I'm kind of snobbish about what I give 9s and 10s to. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So what does this put it at? 17.75. So
That's better than the Assassination of Jesse James.
yeah. So it'll go to number 4 on the list, right under Taxi Driver, under Ad Astra, under Apocalypse Now, just above La Haine, and the three-way tie for 5th between Gone Girl, Clerks, and Pearl. So, Pearl. I think that's fair.
Your great-grandmother's name was Pearlie.
I know. Why'd you look at that? Yeah. 17.75. It's to 4th on the list out of now 12 spots.
Oh, actually,
We
third.
reviewed 15 movies. No, it's 4th.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's out of 15 spots, but what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 of the movies are tied. So 3 of them don't have a spot.
We might have to start going to a 100-point scale.
Could be a thing.
Eventually.
But then because then we wouldn't be able to do these movies. You know, then we wouldn't be able to rate these movies against each
We
other.
just add a 0.
No, I just think what we'll have to. I think what we'll have to start doing is people will just have to start doing like point ratings. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like 17.4, 17 point. You know what I mean? Instead of just round it out by 0.5s.
But we'll figure that out on our home time.
Yeah. I mean, I've already started doing it a little bit by doing 0.25s, and David gave La Haine a 9.2. So we've already started doing it a little bit. Some other people just need to catch on.
I'll change mine to an 8.6 if it makes you happy.
If you want to, I mean, no, you don't have to do anything. But yeah, that's basically it for us. Yeah. So appreciate you coming out.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. I will. I'll have you on soon again. I'm already booked. I'm booked through April and starting to get booked up for May. I'm actually getting pretty far ahead in the booking. I've already got 6 lined up. So.
Lots of film.
Lots of film coming up. I'm gonna just go ahead and say a few because it's not really necessary for me to puppy guard them. So if you're listening this far, you get a nice little treat of a gem or another. If you want to go ahead and catch up, if you haven't seen some of the movies that are coming up, next week I have Daniel on, and we'll be watching the 2007 film Into the Wild by Sean Penn.
I've seen that. That's a good movie.
Yeah, that was Daniel's pick. I had to shake it out of him earlier this week. And then I'll be joined by a new friend, my friend Chris, who we do movie nights. We've done movie nights about on and off since the podcast started. I think the same week the podcast started, we started doing movie nights. Not a filmed thing at all, but just a movie night in general. So I've watched 10 movies with him this year already, new movies that we've not seen before. So we're pretty used to watching movies together. So that'll be cool. We'll be watching Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, the Hunter S. Thompson film, and then Zach C. and I will be watching Super Mario Bros. That was Zach's pick. I picked Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And then me and Trevor will be back on May the 10th. We will be watching Chaplin with Robert Downey Jr. from 1992.
Outstanding movie, by the way.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to that. And then for my mother's birthday, I will be having her on, and she's chosen The Godfather.
Outstanding.
Yeah. That one I don't even know. You don't really even need to say much for that one.
You've never seen The Godfather?
No.
really
Mom's never seen The Godfather.
No. Every time
Yeah.
I'm watching it, she walks out of the room. So
That's funny. So she's now forcing herself to watch it.
A 3-hour movie.
Yeah, I said that when she picked it, so I hope she understands that. I will definitely bring that up to her. The Godfather is tentative at the moment.
If she gets it in one sitting without falling asleep,
Yeah.
I'll be amazed.
Oh, me too. Yeah, me too. And then, interestingly enough, I had already asked David if he wanted to be on for the May 24th episode before Mom had told me what her movie was, and I picked Lost in Translation by Sofia Coppola. So it'll be funny. I'll get to watch.
You haven't seen that movie either?
No.
Oh, I think you'll really like that movie.
Yeah. So it'll be cool. I'll get to watch Francis Ford Coppola's magnum opus, or his best movie is what is considered his best movie, and then I'll get to see what's considered Sofia Coppola's best movie. So I'll get to see how much better one of them is than the other. So that'll be fun.
I love Sophia's. She does fantastic work.
She's cool. I saw her movie. I don't remember what it was called.
Marie Antoinette was good.
I don't think it was that. It was an A24 movie that she did. I don't remember though what it was called. So that tells you how good it is. No, I'm joking. But yeah, that's it. I've rambled a little too long, but that is the upcoming slate for at least to the second to last week of May. So yeah, if you want to go watch any of those movies and watch along with us as we review these movies and watch them with us, go do that. That'll be fun. It'll make it more personal for you and therefore more rewarding when you spend the hour with us. So, thank you to anybody who's listened this far on audio only. Thank you to anybody who has stared at our faces for an entire hour. I still think you're weird for doing that, but nevertheless, appreciate it. We're going to get out of here, though. I was going to say I appreciate it again, and I don't need to do that. So, goodbye, everyone.
Go Pack.
Peace. Yeah.